Hello dear students, this is Professor Milind Patwardhan. Welcome to my channel Physics Unlimited. Today in this lecture we are going to discuss the topic which is polarization of light, and in this lecture we are going to cover the topics like introduction, what is meant by polarization of light, then what is the mechanical and optical experiment to demonstrate the transverse waves, then representation for plane polarized and unpolarized lights, then the law of Malus, then some solved problems on law of Malus, then polarization by reflection, Brevester's law, and polarization by refraction, that is pile of plates. Okay, so what is mean by polarization of light? Now we have encountered with the phenomena such as interference and diffraction of light. So you know that interference is nothing but when two or more light waves superpose on each other, the resultant light intensity is changed in such a way that intensity is maximum at some points and minimum at some other points. So that wherever the intensity is maximum, we say that the interference is a constructive interference. Wherever intensity is minimum, we say that the interference is a destructive interference. While this diffraction is also the superposition of two or more waves which are originating from different parts of the same incident wavefront, and it also produces the alternate dark and bright fringes on the screen. So this phenomena of interference and diffraction can be explained by using the Huygens wave theory of light, and these two physical phenomena, they clearly establish that the light has wave nature. So they establish the wave nature of light. However, these phenomena do not prove whether this light has transverse wave nature or light waves have longitudinal wave nature. You know what is meant by transverse wave as well as longitudinal wave. Transverse waves are those waves in which the vibration of a wave takes place in a direction which is perpendicular to the direction of propagation of the wave, while the longitudinal waves are those waves in which vibrations of the wave takes place in a direction of propagation of the wave. So these two physical phenomena, that is interference and diffraction, they prove the wave nature of light, but they do not prove whether light has transverse wave nature or longitudinal wave nature. Now the phenomena called as polarization is exhibited by the transverse waves only. The phenomena polarization is exhibited by the transverse waves only, means for those waves for which the vibration takes place in a direction which is perpendicular to the direction of propagation, only such waves, that is transverse waves, they show the phenomena called as polarization. Hence this polarization of light, so in case of light, if we are talking about light, then the polarization of light, it proves the transverse wave nature of light waves. So these two physical phenomena only prove the wave nature of light, but this polarization of light, it proves the transverse nature of the light waves. Now you know that electromagnetic waves, they are composed of electric field vector as well as magnetic field vector, like this. So here this is the magnetic field vector, and this is the electric field vector which is shown like this. So you know that in case of an electromagnetic wave or light waves, the electric field vector and magnetic field vector, they vibrate perpendicular to each other. So here this magnetic field vector, it vibrates perpendicular to that of the electric field vector, and both of them, that is magnetic field vector and electric field vector, both of them, they vibrate perpendicular to the direction of propagation of a wave. So if this is the direction of propagation of wave, then this magnetic field vector as well as electric field vector, both of them, they are perpendicular to the direction of propagation. So electromagnetic wave is a light is an electromagnetic wave. It consists of vibrations of electric field and magnetic field. The electric field and magnetic field are perpendicular to each other. They are perpendicular to each other and in phase. And electromagnetic wave is a transverse wave. Now how we can prove that whether this electromagnetic wave is a transverse wave, that we will see. So the speed of electromagnetic wave is 3 into 10 raised to power 8 meter per second. This is known to us. Now out of these two field vectors, that is a electric field vector and a magnetic field vector, it is the electric field vector which is responsible for light. Out of these two field vectors, that is magnetic field vector and electric field vector, it is the electric field vector which is responsible for light, and therefore this electric field vector is also known as light vector. Is also known as light vector. Electric field vector is also known as light vector. Okay. Now to understand what is mean by polarization, let us take one experiment which is a mechanical experiment. So in this mechanical experiment, let us assume that suppose this end B is fixed and this end A is free. Suppose this end B is fixed to some rigid support and this end A is free, and let us consider that there is a string with these two ends, that is end A and end B, and let this string is allowed to pass through two narrow slits, that is S1 and S2, such that the axis of the two slits S1 and S2, they are held in such a way that they are parallel to each other. So here the axis of S1 and axis of S2, they are parallel to each other. We fix the end B of the string to some rigid support and this end A is free. Now when this end A is moved up and down, then the complete string will vibrate, and such vibrations will pass through slit S1. Then these vibrations will reach up to the second slit, which is S2, and these vibrations will further pass through slit S2, and hence the complete string will vibrate. Now why the vibrations passes through both the slits S1 and S2? Because here these vibrations are such that the vibrations which are produced in the string are such that they are parallel to the axis of the slit S1, as well as these vibrations are parallel to the axis of the slit which is S2, and hence since the vibrations are parallel to axis of S1 and S2, and hence these vibrations are transmitted through it, and therefore the complete string vibrates. Hence the complete string will vibrate. While if we take the other case, that here now if I rotate the second slit S2 by 90 degree, if I rotate it completely by 90 degree, if the axis of slit S2 is rotated with respect to the axis of slit S1 by 90 degree, and then again we perform the same kind of experiment, that this end A is moved up and down. So if this end A is moved up and down, then the vibrations are produced in the string. Then these vibrations, being parallel to the axis of the slit S1, they are transmitted through the slit S1. But now when these vibrations are incident on the axis of the slit S2, which is rotated by 90 degree, then these vibrations will become perpendicular to the axis of slit S2, and hence such vibrations are obstructed to pass through S2. Since such vibrations are obstructed to pass through S2, and therefore string beyond S2 will not vibrate. So since the string beyond S2 do not vibrate, it proves that these mechanical waves, in case of strings, they are transverse in nature. So here the waves are transverse in nature. So we have already seen what is mean by transverse wave. Transverse wave means if the vibration of the wave takes place in a direction which is perpendicular to the direction of propagation of a wave. So this is the direction of propagation of a wave, and here the vibration takes place in a direction which is perpendicular to the direction of propagation of wave. So here the wave is a transverse wave. Now if here the waves were longitudinal in nature, then the vibrations of the wave takes place in a direction of propagation of the wave. Then if I rotate the second slit S2 by 90 degree, do it produce any change on the vibrations? Can you think on this? For a minute you can think on this, whether if the vibrations were longitudinal in nature, then rotation of the second slit S2, would it produce any change in the vibration? The answer is no. because the vibration, if it were longitudinal in nature, then it would pass through slit S1 as well as it would pass through slit S2, whether it is parallel, whether the axis of S2 is parallel to that of S1 or whether it is rotated by 90 degree. If the vibrations were longitudinal in nature, that is, if the vibration takes place in the direction of propagation of the wave. But since here the waves are transverse in nature, so rotation of slit S2, it obstructs the vibration to pass through it, and it proves the transverse nature of waves. That is, vibration takes place in a direction which is perpendicular to the direction of propagation of a wave. So this is about the mechanical experiment, which is an example of strings. Now let us perform one more experiment, which is an optical experiment with the help of light. So here we have a source of light which is called as an unpolarized source of light. Why it is called as an unpolarized source of light? Because I already told you that in case of electromagnetic wave, there are two field vectors, that is electric field vector and the magnetic field vector. Both of them, they vibrate perpendicular to each other, and they vibrate perpendicular to the direction of propagation of a wave. So out of these two, it is the electric field vector which is responsible for light. So in case of an ordinary source of light, or which is also called as an unpolarized source of light, this electric field vector, it vibrates in all possible directions. So whenever the electric field vector vibrates in all possible directions, such light is called as an unpolarized source of light. Then when this unpolarized source of light is incident on a tourmaline crystal, this tourmaline, it occurs in nature in various forms. Usually when it breaks in the form of a hexagonal prism like structure with a pyramid like structure at both of its ends, and it is slightly greenish and transparent in color. And the property of this crystal is the longest line joining the end points of these two pyramid like structure at its ends is called as the axis of the crystal, or optic axis of the crystal. And the property of this tourmaline crystal is such that when an unpolarized beam of light is incident on this tourmaline crystal, it will absorb all other vibrations except those vibrations which are parallel to its axis. So here only this vibration in the unpolarized source of light is parallel to the axis of the tourmaline crystal, which is T1 suppose, and therefore such vibration is transmitted through it, and here therefore you obtain a vibration which is vibrating in only one plane, while the rest of the vibrations they are not parallel to the axis of the tourmaline crystal, and therefore all such vibrations which are not parallel to its axis, all such vibrations are absorbed by the tourmaline crystal. So this absorption is also called as a selective absorption, or this principle is also called as a dichroism. So here what interesting thing you observed is that you incident here an unpolarized source of light, but when such unpolarized source of light passes through the tourmaline crystal, here you get a light which vibrates in only one plane, and therefore such light is called as plane polarized light. In short, it is written as PPL. Now when such plane polarized light is allowed to fall on the second tourmaline crystal such that the axis of the two tourmaline crystals are held parallel to each other, then these vibrations being parallel to the axis of the tourmaline crystal T2, they are again transmitted through it, and therefore here you will observe that intensity of transmitted light is maximum. So here the intensity of transmitted light is maximum. Now let us perform a similar experiment like that of a mechanical experiment. Here we are having the same case. Here these are the two slits whose axes are parallel to each other, and in the second case the axis of the second slit is rotated by 90 degree. So here axis of the two tourmaline crystals are initially held parallel to each other, but now axis of the tourmaline crystal T2, if it is rotated by 90 degree with respect to the axis of the tourmaline crystal T1, then what will happen? Again here when an unpolarized light is incident on first tourmaline crystal T1, here you get a completely plane polarized light, but now this light being a completely plane polarized light, it has vibrations perpendicular to the direction of propagation of the wave, and now these vibrations are perpendicular to the axis of the second tourmaline crystal T2, and whenever vibrations are not parallel to the axis, they are absorbed by the tourmaline crystal. So all these vibrations are absorbed by the tourmaline crystal, which is T2, and hence the intensity of transmitted light is 0. So what does this optical experiment proves? This optical experiment proves that light has transverse wave nature, because if light waves are having the longitudinal wave nature, then both the crystals are transparent in nature, and therefore rotation of the second tourmaline crystal should not have caused any change in the intensity of transmitted light, because both of them, they are transparent in nature. But here, since here we get a completely plane polarized light through the first tourmaline crystal, and therefore rotation of the second tourmaline crystal, it causes change in intensity of transmitted light, and hence we say that light has transverse wave nature. So this optical experiment proves that light has transverse nature. Light has transverse nature. So since here the first tourmaline crystal is used to produce a completely plane polarized light, and therefore first tourmaline crystal is called as polarizer. It is called as polarizer, while rotation of the second slit, second tourmaline crystal, it causes change in intensity of transmitted light, and therefore second tourmaline crystal is known as analyzer, because it is used to analyze the plane polarized light produced by polarizer. So second tourmaline crystal is called as analyzer. So if I now rotate the second tourmaline crystal by 180 degree, what will happen? Yes, intensity of transmitted light will be maximum, because in that case the axis of the two tourmaline crystals are parallel to each other. Now if I rotate it by 270 degree, then again the axis of the two tourmaline crystal will be perpendicular to each other, and therefore intensity of transmitted light will be 0. If I rotate it by 360 degree, then again intensity will be maximum. It means that if the second tourmaline crystal T2, if it is rotated by 360 degree, then I will get the intensity to be maximum twice and minimum twice. Maximum intensity will be achieved for the rotation of the tourmaline crystal by 180 degree and 360 degree, while you get the minimum or zero intensity when it is rotated by 90 and 270 degree. Okay, then how we can represent the polarized light? So what is mean by polarized light is now clear to you, that polarized light means it has vibrations which lie on a one single plane only. So whenever vibrations lie in a single plane, then such light is called as a polarized light, or it is also called as a plane polarized light. Then what is mean by unpolarized light? That I already told you, that if the vibrations of the electric field vector takes place in a direction, in all possible directions, then it is called as unpolarized beam of light. So this is the meaning of plane polarized light, that it has vibrations in only one plane. So this is a plane polarized light, and here the vibrations takes place in all possible directions, so it is called as unpolarized light. So this is the representation for unpolarized light and polarized light. Now for polarized light, we can show the symbol either by lines, or it can be represented by dots. Or for unpolarized light, we can show the symbol either by this way. It shows that electric field vector vibrates in all possible direction, or we can represent it by this way. It shows that there are two types of vibrations. That is a vibration which is parallel to the plane. This is the plane of the slide, and if it is shown by a dot, then it indicates that it is the vibration which is perpendicular to the plane. So this vibration is perpendicular to the plane of this slide. So here, if both the vibrations are present simultaneously one over each other, then such light is again called as a unpolarized light. While for a completely plane polarized light, either we can show the symbol for completely plane polarized light we can show the symbol for completely plane polarized light either by lines, or only by dots. So when it is shown by lines only, then it has vibrations in this plane only, and when it is shown by dots, then it has vibrations perpendicular to this plane only. So for completely plane polarized light, we can use the symbol either by lines or by dots, while for unpolarized light, lines and dots both are present simultaneously or one over each other. So this is what we have seen, the polarization of light, the polarizer. When unpolarized light, here the electric field vector is shown, which is vibrating in all possible direction in a given incident beam of light. So it is an unpolarized beam of light. When it passes through the first polarizer, then here you get a completely plane polarized light which vibrates in only one direction, and so it is vertically plane polarized light, because here the polarizing directions for the first polarizer are vertical, while if I use the second polarizer such that its polarizing directions are horizontal, then in that case this light, which is vertically plane polarized light, it cannot pass through the second polarizer, and hence the intensity of transmitted light is 0. Okay, now the next important law is the law of Malus, which is based on this phenomena of optical experiment. So what is the law of Malus? This is a very important phenomena in this polarization topic. The statement of this law of Malus is such that it states that when a completely plane polarized light is incident on the analyzer, then the intensity of light emerging from the analyzer is proportional to the square of cosine intensity of emerging light from the analyzer is proportional to the square of cosine of the angle between the plane of polarizer and plane of analyzer. So if I is the intensity of transmitted light through the analyzer, if I is the intensity of transmitted light from the analyzer, and Im is the intensity of plane polarized light which is incident on the analyzer, and theta is the angle between plane of polarizer and analyzer, then the intensity of transmitted light is I is equal to Im into cos square of theta. So this is nothing but the law of Malus. So we know the physical phenomena with the tourmaline crystal, that here when an unpolarized beam of light is incident on the polarizer, so since this is an unpolarized beam of light, lines as well as dots both are shown simultaneously over here. So when unpolarized light is incident on the polarizer, here you get a completely plane polarized light, and when such completely plane polarized light having intensity which is Im is incident on the analyzer, when this completely plane polarized light is incident on the analyzer, now you know that we have seen the first case, that when the axis of the two tourmaline crystals are parallel to each other, then intensity of transmitted light through analyzer is maximum. But when the axis of the second tourmaline crystal T2 is rotated by 90 degree, exactly 90 degree, then intensity of transmitted light is 0. But here, if the analyzer, if it is not rotated exactly by 90 degree, but it is rotated by some angle theta, then in that case you will observe some intensity of transmitted light, and that some intensity of transmitted light is equal to I is equal to Im into cos square theta, where this I is the intensity of that transmitted light through analyzer, Im is the intensity of plane polarized light which is incident on the analyzer or produced by the polarizer, and theta is the angle between this is the angle between the plane of polarizer and plane of analyzer. Now we can prove this law very easily, that suppose this is the plane of polarizer along which you get the amplitude of plane polarized light, and let this amplitude of plane polarized light is Em. So this Em will be produced only along the direction of plane of polarizer, because they are parallel to each other. So this is the plane of polarizer or axis of polarizer, and these vibrations are parallel to it. Therefore, if Em is the amplitude of plane polarized light, then it will lie along the plane of polarizer. Now if the plane of analyzer is rotated by some angle theta, then this amplitude EM can be resolved into two components. One of the component is EM cos theta and the other component will be EM sin theta. So now you will observe that here the component which is EM cos theta is parallel to the plane of analyzer, while the component which is EM sin theta is perpendicular to the plane of analyzer. So what is the property of the tourmaline crystal? The property of tourmaline crystal is it will allow only that vibration to pass through it which is parallel to its axis. So only the component which is EM cos theta is transmitted through the plane of analyzer, while the perpendicular component which is EM sin theta is cut off by the plane of analyzer. And hence, since EM cos theta is the component of amplitude which is transmitted through the analyzer, so in order to get the intensity we have to take the square of this amplitude, because intensity is nothing but it is the square of amplitude. So intensity I will be equal to EM square into cos square theta. So EM square is equal to IM, and therefore we get the law which is I is equal to IM into cos square of theta. Now let us take one problem on this phenomena, that is law of Malus, that the polarizer and analyzer, they are oriented so that the intensity of transmitted light is maximum. It means that initially their axes are held parallel to each other. So when the axis of polarizer and analyzer are held parallel to each other, then only the intensity of transmitted light is maximum. Now it is asked that through what angle analyzer be rotated so that the intensity of transmitted light is reduced to 50% in first case, and it is reduced to 25% of its original intensity. So original intensity means IM, and you have to calculate the intensity of transmitted light reduced to 50% or 25% of original intensity. It means that 50% means the intensity is, if it is reduced to 50%, so the ratio I upon IM is given as half for the first case, and for the second case this ratio I upon IM is given as 1/4. So for first case we will solve for this first case and calculate what is the angle theta by which the analyzer should be rotated. So the formula is I upon IM into is equal to cos square theta, because I is equal to IM into cos square theta. So we have given the ratio I upon IM as half, and therefore cos square theta will be equal to half, because I upon IM is equal to cos square theta. So this cos theta will be equal to plus minus of square root of half, and therefore theta will be equal to cos inverse of plus minus square root of 1/2. And if you solve this, then you will get the answer as theta is equal to plus minus 45 degree or plus minus 135 degree. Now let us solve for the second case, that is when the intensity is reduced to 25%. So 25% means this ratio I upon IM is given as 1/4. So this I upon IM is equal to cos square theta. So cos square theta is equal to 1/4. Hence cos theta is equal to plus minus of 1/2. And therefore theta will be equal to cos inverse of plus minus 1/2. So the answer should be plus minus 60 degree and plus minus 120 degree. Let us take one more example so that you will have a clear idea about how to solve the problems on law of Malus. That here the two polarizing plates have polarizing directions parallel so as to transmit maximum intensity of light, same as the first problem. Through what angle must either plates be turned if the intensity of transmitted beam is 1/3 the intensity of the incident beam? So again the same formula, which is I upon IM is equal to cos square theta. So cos square theta is given to you, it is equal to 1/3. So cos theta is equal to plus minus of square root of 1/3, and hence theta will be equal to cos inverse of plus minus square root of 1/3. So we'll get the values of theta as plus minus 54.73 degree and plus minus 125.26 degree. Then next is how to produce the plane polarized light. So we can produce the plane polarized light by the phenomena of reflection, simply reflection. So here suppose this xy is the interface of any transparent surface, then when an unpolarized beam of light, so since it is unpolarized beam of light, therefore here lines as well as dots both are shown simultaneously for unpolarized beam of light. So when an unpolarized beam of light is incident at an angle of incidence say I on this interface of any transparent surface xy, Then on reaching at this point, say suppose this is a beam AB, then on reaching at this point B, part of the incident light is reflected and part of it is refracted with the angle of refraction R. Then the reflected and refracted beams, they are partially plane polarized. Partially plane polarized means here you can see the symbol, that is lines as well as dots both are present simultaneously, but here the size of this dot is less as compared to the size of the dot over here. It means that the vibration which is having which is perpendicular vibration to the plane is having less amplitude as compared to the vibration which is parallel to the plane, and therefore such light is called as partially plane polarized. But if an unpolarized beam of light is incident on the interface of the transparent surface at some specific angle of incidence, here I have represented as IP. So if the angle of incidence is specific, called as polarizing angle, then then it is observed that the reflected beam of light is found to be completely plane polarized and the refracted beam of light is partially plane polarized. So here, since the refracted beam of light is partially plane polarized, so here you can see that lines as well as dots both are present simultaneously, but the size of dot over here is less as compared to the size of dot over here. It means that it is partially plane polarized, but here you can see that the light which is produced in the reflection, this light is completely plane polarized. Now how we can say that this light is completely plane polarized or not? Just by holding a tourmaline crystal. So if I hold a tourmaline crystal over here such that axis of the tourmaline crystal is parallel to these vibrations, then in that case I will see that the intensity of transmitted light is maximum. But if I rotate the tourmaline crystal by 90 degree, then intensity of transmitted light will be 0. If I rotate it by 180 degree, again maximum, 360 degree, again 0, 270 degree 0, and 360 degree again maximum. So if I rotate this tourmaline crystal by 360 degree, then for the rotation of 90 degree and 270 degree, I get the intensity of transmitted light as 0. For 90 and 270, I will get the intensity of transmitted light as 0. But for the rotation of 180 degree and 360 degree, or 0, you can say that 0 degree or 360 degree, then for such rotations the intensity of transmitted light is maximum. So in that case, when I observe that intensity of transmitted light is 0 for rotation of 90 and 270, then only I can say that this light is completely plane polarized. While here in this previous case, since this is partially plane polarized light, if I held a tourmaline crystal over here and if I rotate it by 360 degree, then also I will observe that intensity of transmitted light is maximum and minimum, such that it is maximum for rotation of 180 and 360 degree and minimum for the rotation of 90 and 270. But here the intensity of transmitted light is not exactly 0, but for rotation of this I will see that intensity of transmitted light is something which is minimum, because when it is rotated by 90 degree, then in that case the vibration which is perpendicular to the plane, such vibration will be parallel to the axis of the tourmaline crystal, and that vibration will be transmitted through it when it is rotated by 90 degree, and therefore though its intensity is less, but yes, you will observe some intensity of transmitted light. And then we can say that it is not completely plane polarized, but such light is partially plane polarized when it is rotated by 180 and 360 and observe the maximum intensity of light, and when it is rotated by 90 and 270 degree, you will observe some minimum intensity. Then you can say that this light is partially plane polarized. While here if you observe completely 0 intensity, then only we can say that here the light is a completely plane polarized. Then next is the Brewster's law. You might have studied this Brewster's law in 12th standard also. And the statement of this Brewster's law is, it states that when a beam of unpolarized light is incident upon a transparent surface at the polarizing angle IP, then the reflected and refracted beams, they are perpendicular to each other. So whenever this case is there, that is when unpolarized beam of light is incident at polarizing angle IP, then the reflected and refracted beams, they are always at right angles to each other. So this is the Brewster's law. They are always at right angles to each other. So if they are always at right angles to each other, it means that IP plus RP will be equal to 90 degree. Therefore RP will be equal to 90 minus IP. Now from the Snell's law of refraction, we know that mu is equal to sine IP upon sine RP, and therefore here it will be sine IP upon sine of, here we substitute the value of RP as 90 minus IP. So this will be mu is equal to sine IP upon cos IP, because sine 90 minus IP is cos IP, which is equal to tan of IP. So the Brewster's law can also be stated as the tangent of the polarizing angle IP is numerically equal to the refractive index of the medium. So refractive index mu is equal to tangent of the polarizing angle IP. So since the refractive index mu is different for different transparent surfaces, and therefore the polarizing angle IP is also different for different transparent surfaces. Or you can say in other words that since the polarizing angle IP is different for different surfaces, so the refractive index mu is also different for different transparent surfaces. In case of glass, this polarizing angle IP for glass is 57 degree. The polarizing angle IP in case of glass is found to be 57 degree. IP is equal to 57 for glass only, while for other transparent surface that will be different. Then next is we can obtain a completely plane polarized light by a phenomena that is known as refraction, or it is also called as pile of plates. So here in this method, that is to obtain a completely plane polarized light by simply the phenomena of refraction, we use here roughly 15 to 20 glass plates, which is called as a stack of 15 to 20 glass plates, or called as a pile of plates, and they are inclined at an angle of 33 degree, and they are all of them, they are held parallel to each other. So when they are inclined at an angle of 33 degree, then with this as a normal, the angle of incidence will be equal to 57 degree, which is the polarizing angle in case of glass. So when an unpolarized beam of light is incident at the polarizing angle IP, then the reflected beam of light is found to be completely plane polarized, while the refracted beam of light is found to be partially plane polarized. So for here you can see that the vibrations is represented by dots only. It means that it has vibrations in only one plane, which is perpendicular to the plane. So such plane polarized light is called as S polarized light, while the transmitted or refracted beam of light is just partially plane polarized. So here you can see that lines as well as dots both are present simultaneously, but the size of this dot is less as compared to the size of dot over here. Now, but when this partially plane polarized light is again allowed to fall on the second inclined glass plate, then since the two glass plates are parallel to each other, so again here the angle of incidence will be equal to 57 degree. Due to that, reflected beam is again completely plane polarized, refracted beam is still partially plane polarized. But if such partially plane polarized light is allowed to be transmitted or refracted through such stack of 15 to 20 glass plates, then finally we can get a completely plane polarized light, and such completely plane polarized light is called as a P polarized light. So no doubt we can obtain the plane polarized light by the phenomena of reflection over here. So here we get a completely plane polarized light by reflection. Such light is called as S polarized light, while we can also obtain a completely plane polarized light when it passes through a stack of 15 to 20 glass plate by the phenomena of refraction. Again we can obtain a completely plane polarized light, and such light is called as P polarized light. I hope you enjoy this lecture. You will get all the doubts clear in this lecture. So if you like this lecture, please subscribe to my channel, and please do like and share this video. Thank you.